Heretic plus Hexen. Released August of 2025. Available on all modern platforms. Retailing for $14.99. This is a collection containing Heretic, Shadow of the Serpent Raiders, Hexen, Beyond Heretic, Hexen, Death Kings of the Dark Citadel, and two new to this collection episodes, Heretic, Faith Renewed, and Hexen, Vestiges of Grandeur. For those unfamiliar with these games, these are first-person shooters, specifically of the kind we used to call Doom clones back in the day. With the Heretic portion of this collection, it is very much just Doom, but with some superficial fantasy trappings. Like downloading a Dungeons & Dragons WOD for Doom, really. Hexen, on the other hand, goes a little further with the fantasy elements, having you actually select a class, and there being stats that do actually affect gameplay, at least to a small extent. But even saying that, it's still not all that far from the Doom 1 and 2 formula. But this is a collection that's primarily aimed at people that have nostalgia for the Heretic and Hexen games. And unfortunately, this collection omits the games that weren't made by id. So if you were a dedicated fan of these games and their sequels, you're not even really getting a very complete collection. But this is somewhat compensated for with the two original episodes, which are only available in this collection. But everything here is ultimately in the classic Doom style. You will wander about levels, fighting groups of enemies. You will occasionally find doors for which you need a key. You will then stumble around trying to find a key. Eventually, you will find the exit, and the whole process can start anew. But that was pretty much every first-person shooter before the release of Half-Life, and you're likely completely aware of that if you have any interest in this collection at all. So is Heretic plus Hexen worth your time and money? Well, that entirely depends on your nostalgia. Personally, I was a Doom kid that later moved on to Duke Nukem and Quake, so these games mean almost nothing to me. And this collection doesn't even represent a terribly good value, as the Doom 1 and 2 collection contain much more content and is also $5 less than this collection. And there were definitely more games and expansions they could have added to this collection to make it a better value. And I'm sure licensing problems are what prevented that from happening. But what we're left with here just feels like a half-baked collection, and one that's being sold at slightly too high a price to really justify it. So I personally would recommend passing on Heretic and Hexen, or if you're morbidly curious, maybe just wait until there is a good sale. Please do subscribe, comment, like, and tell your friends.